Hi, Michal. You're killing it. Excellent. Amazing. You've become a really talented photographer. I'm really impressed. Especially this picture. Gorgeous. Okay, let's get into it. Just very happy. Okay, so the first series of picture we called Run, and the point was to be using AI Servo at a quick speed and having your subject run to you. Just you learn from this quite quickly. We've learned the 4 rules of blurring out your background, which is what? Number 1 is zooming all the way. Number 2, widest aperture, close to subject, far from background. Now watch what happens as your subject gets closer to you. Do you see how this car gets blurrier? Yeah, that's just the proof of what we're talking about. Great, you've done really well. Your camera, which is a very, very basic camera, has handled this exceptionally well. Really, I can see she was running as fast as she could, and you're at 1.8. Pardon me. So one of the big differences usually in the lower level cameras and the higher level cameras is things like the focusing system. That's a big one. And it's great to see that a 1300D like Rebel camera, very basic, can handle such a situation. Excellent, really good. I don't underestimate taking these pictures. These pictures are like a kind of bread and butter kind of picture that I take in my shoots. In that, I will always, part of my repertoire is always at a shoot to take, one of the kids or a few of the kids or all the kids or the whole family and to have them running towards me. You get some really great pictures that way. I also like the idea that I don't know if you're conscious of this so much, but you're off a little bit. Like the natural thought would be to put her in the center of this triangle that's creating perspective. But I actually think that this works nicer as well. I know you didn't. This wasn't intended to be like a proper picture in that you're just learning, but great shot. Okay, now this is our white balance, and your camera seems to be on the ball. So your AWB has done something different to what it usually does. Usually AWB is a little bit cooler, but it looks like it's the same. Does it get warmer? It looks the same basically. As the sun, even drop warmer, which could account for the fact that AWB is not a specific number, but it's a sliding scale that the camera chooses. So this is sun. This is sun. Yeah, this is sun and cloud and shade. So you can see that shade is not applicable. Okay. Now you can see from all of these pictures that they're all basically in the ballpark. Yeah, there's nothing that can't be worked out. This could maybe be like this could maybe be warmed a little bit in post, but like the rule that I taught, the rule is by default you are set to sun. If the image is too blue, too cool, which is common, you turn to cloud. And if the image is too warm, which is less common, then you turn to AWB. Finished. That's white balance. That's really the way that I approach white balance, and so far so good. So you'll find people drive themselves crazy. I've seen people on shoots with like white cards taking pictures, and it's crazy. Don't get involved in the craziness. Get as many variables out of the picture as you can, and then you can start just being with your client and thinking graphically. Most importantly, being with your client. When it comes down to my photo shoots, you'll see that generally I'm just manipulating my shutter speed because I set my ISO set to 200. Here you're at 100, it could be at 200, but your shutter speed's fine. It wouldn't make a difference really. To be at 200, I'm at my widest aperture. My white balance is set to sun, and that means that the only variable that I'm really thinking about is my shutter speed. I'm just moving incrementally just to get perfect exposure. What are you shooting with here? You are in manual. That's good. Okay, you're nailing the exposures, but you've demonstrated the point clearly here. There we can see that this is a little bit bluey, and then you turn to cloud and it's absolutely fine. Okay, don't forget as well that your client is not going to be standing there being able to choose between the two pictures. So even if we saw this by itself, we wouldn't even think that the white balance was not perfect. But when you see it next to this one, you would think maybe that. But just remember that your client is not going to be seeing between the two things. It's a very important thing. This happens in photography all the time, is that you have photographers say, you can't, this lens is so much better than that lens. Yeah. And then you'll say, okay. So, and they'll show you a test that was done, and it's the same picture. They're in the same place, with the same camera, same time of day, etc., etc. And they literally flick between one and the other, one this way, that way, this way, that way, this way. And you can see, sometimes you can see that there is a difference. And they're like, wow, it's so much better. And then you're thinking like, okay, when you put the two pictures next to each other and you flick backwards and forwards, you can see that there is a slight difference. But when you see the picture by itself, the thought doesn't even creep into your mind. So it's important to just stay balanced in the idea of that this kind of thing, like it really doesn't matter if you're off so much, and to be able to drop the variable of white balance is a really helpful thing to do. It really is. It really will free up some of your mind to think of other stuff. Okay, best in RAW. And this is a great example. Why is it best in RAW? Because we've got this ugly overexposed area over here. If you are shooting this image in RAW, then you should think about underexposing your subject. If you've got a bright area and a midtone, as opposed to like a dark area and a midtone, this is your midtone here and this is your highlight. So if you're shooting like this, it's good to underexpose a little bit, which means then you'll bring back you'll pull out the shadows. You'll open up the shadows in this area, and then you'll pull away the highlights in this area, and you'll get to a balanced exposure. Okay. So when I saw this picture originally, I loved it. I'm thinking now if that's actually a little distracting, the light as opposed to being cool. Forget the light. Let's say that wasn't there. That's definitely up for discussion, but let's say that wasn't there. The actual composition is beautiful. Okay, stats are perfect, spot on, nice one. The composition is beautiful. The colours are delicious. The textures and contrasting, and the colours. You've got like an energized red texture, and then a very soft greeny yellowy texture here, and there's hints of the colour picked up. So this really goes beautifully. Pardon me. It really does. A lot of it is to do with these hints. I wonder if you did that in post. It looks like you did edit this in post. That would be that'd be a very, very sensitive edit, which I'd appreciate very much. She's holding purple grapes as well. That's cute. Anyway, so look, I'm undecided about the lines. I don't know if people would notice that generally. I really can't decide if I think that adds or distracts. I think I'd probably tend to the side of saying it distracts. How could we remedy this? Is in this picture, you could literally just have somebody standing over here blocking the light coming in there, and that would work out if there was somebody with you. If not, then you might not be able to do that. Block off the light. Anyway, I love the energies of this picture. I really do. The composition is beautiful, and it's all tied together with the colours as well. Excellent, excellent. And the stats are perfect. Okay. This image, I would be thinking about cropping off a little bit at the top, leaving a little bit in the bottom. Okay. I can for sure see now that you're in the world of Lightroom, which is excellent. You should be. And this should have been composed. This area is a dead area. Okay. Our point of entry is his face, his eyes, and we come in and there's energies moving this way. So we actually need a little bit more room on this side. Okay. Like we've learned, we can always crop off room on this side, which extends it on this side. But I think in this image, it really did actually need some extra room. Let's just show you something very quickly. 1 second. Now, if we, let me just save this and open in Photoshop. And now what I would do is go to my crop tool, add some space here. I'm also going to just add, let me just move me out of the way, add a little bit there so he's perfectly on the third. Okay, and now I'm going to just going to do it quickly. Just drag that out. And, oh no, excuse me, don't want that. And then drag that out. There we go. Let's just have a look at the difference. Let's go back to the original crop. That was what we had over here. And look at the difference. Isn't that a big difference? You see, it's real. The rule of thirds is a real thing. The reason why this isn't the rule of thirds, because he is actually in the middle, is because his energy is moving that way. So although your subject is in the third, the energy of the image is actually over here, which is actually just off the third. You with me? So it really does make a big difference. Okay? Okay. Let's keep going. Oh, I love this. That's gorgeous. That's a really gorgeous picture. It's nice because it's a cheapy lens. I've got the same lens and I love it, and I'd rather it than the more expensive one. And one of the issues with like entry level lenses is the flare, but in this case it worked perfectly, beautifully. I would be there's a little bit too much of mum over here. I would be inclined to crop her off. Let's just see what happens there. Then you lose that amazing flare, but let's see. Yep. I think we'll stay with this. That's a lovely picture. A lovely picture. I would have liked to have seen what it would look like if you were taking it landscape as well. But I love the energies there. And I suppose it would be a little better if she was a little bit away, if her head was away from mum's hand and like walking off, like looking that way. The energy gets a little confused that she's moving to the left, but I wouldn't sweat that. Okay. Now the edit is a little off here. Be careful with doing the eyes because you've spilled out onto her skin there, which has made it look a bit funny. The actual picture's nice. It looks like you kind of ruined this a little bit in the edit. I love the wall, and again, same gorgeous little girl with the lovely colours and stuff. And you really have a sensitive eye to the image. It's excellent, and you're in the world now of being absolutely, in my opinion, 100% worthy of charging money for your photography. This photography is commercially viable, and you should be charging people for it. But keep in mind that most importantly, more important than charging for this, is getting the customers. So if you really were to think of it properly, it would make sense even to pay people to take pictures for them, as long as you can use the images. Make sure that they'll allow you to use the images, but it would make sense to even pay people. So keep that in mind when it comes to like working out your prices and stuff. I would leave a little bit more room over here, but it's really, you're doing great. This is good photography. Like I said, the edit here didn't work out, but the actual placement of your subject, the tensions, the background, the stats, perfect. Okay, this is very cute. I like this picture. So let's just see this one here. Okay, so this is very energized. How do we add intimacy and intensity? By cropping in. So I'm thinking of cropping off his head a little bit. I like that, and I think we'll just crop this up a little bit. Good. So now the rules to cutting off heads, I don't know if it was by you that I explained this, but I'm going to explain it again very quickly, is converging lines. If we have lines that converge, we can cut them off, and your mind's eye will fill the arc and it will look normal. If the lines, for example, the guy's wearing a hat and you crop it off before, you can see in my video, before, it's difficult, it's backwards, that you, that's really funny, that you can see in if the hat bends over, if you crop it before it bends over on the straight vertical lines, then it will appear in your mind's eye like it's an absurdly big hat. This is a great shot. I really do appreciate this picture. Beautiful. Again, we could do something. It might be that we'll take this one into Lightroom. We could go a little bit further in Lightroom. It seems like it's a little bit, maybe, I think you've already done something like, I'm pretty sure you have. But the skin needs to be a little brighter, I think. It's like, I think you've reduced the contrast or something, I'm not sure. And now this image, this is, like you could say it's kind of arty. I appreciate that, and it's a nice moment. But I would appreciate a little bit more room here, just to have it breathe a little bit better. This area is beautiful. I would make it more contrasty. I think let's take this one into Lightroom. Let's have a look. I'm going to it's going to be very quick, I think. Just to add some contrast. A little bit brighter. And now we're going to go crazy with the clarity tool. No, don't like that last thing I did. 1 second. Not even sure about the eye as well, but definitely the hair. Let's keep going. A little bit over there, maybe. I think we're also going to take away a bit of this dark area here. Put the exposure drop. And take away some shadows. Good. Okay. Just to look at the difference, just a subtle difference, but it really does make all the difference. It's a bit flat, low tonal range. We brought up the highlights, broke down the shadows a little bit, and energized the textures, etc. But you're doing fantastically, and like I said, you should charge money. You should feel confident charging money. Keep taking pictures. And, well, fantastic. All the best. Okay, looking forward to next week.